Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and today we've got something rather different but really exciting. As you can see from the little intro that we had on screen, I was invited to the press event for Chaos Gate Daemonhunters and I was able to play through a few missions and just generally check out the game, see how it works, and yeah, I can show you footage, which is awesome. This is a game that I've been waiting for a long time, especially since I'm a very big fan of the Grey Knights, so yeah, let's just jump right in. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to talk over the video, explain my experience with the title, but every now and then, with warning of course, I'm going to let you know that I'm going to let the game run by itself so you can hear the game, you can hear the voice acting, you can hear the sound design, because it's all pretty cool. So I was able to play a number of missions as I said, and I won't be able to show everything. There are some things that obviously they had to fix up, or stuff that they weren't ready to show just yet. But let's just set the scene here. We're playing as the Grey Knights. These are Adeptus Astartes, but dedicated to killing demons. They are your exorcists, essentially, for those who are not too aware of what a demon hunter is. You are tasked with dealing with a threat known as the Bloom, which is a variety of different Nurgle-ish enemies. You're not only dealing with Nurgle demons here, but you're also dealing with the Death Guard too. So already we're starting off with a rather interesting matchup. Tabletop fans will definitely be quite interested in this idea, because well, you know, Nurgle versus Grey Knights is always fun. Gameplay-wise, this is a turn-based game, as you can see on screen. If you need a game more or less to just compare it to, think in a style of XCOM, but don't think that this is a carbon copy. It's in fact got a lot of unique elements, and I won't be able to show just everything, unfortunately, but I'm imagining that it won't be too long until they start officially showing stuff off. Plus, they've shown off loads of different elements. One thing that I was really interested in, which unfortunately I do not have footage of, was the character building. You could customize your characters quite well, change out their loadouts, change out their aesthetics, so you could make your Grey Knights look more or less to how your Grey Knights would look on the tabletop. I love customization when it comes to Warhammer games or just games in general, because it always breathes a bit more life into the scene because of it. I was trying to get my Grey Knights to look as much as my own Paladin squads as possible. Now keep in mind that you won't be seeing pro gameplay footage. I'm not very good at these types of games, however, I did really enjoy it. It was very simple enough to learn, I must say. The variety of different types of characters, which will give you access to different types of classes, will give you a lot to play around with if you like specific types of gameplay. And now, unfortunately here, we were given a squad which was already optimized for each mission and so on. I'm assuming because, you know, this is a basic press event and they need people to win, essentially, so they can actually see everything. And, you know, not get too demolished when it comes to these types of fights. And I must say that, yeah, maybe the units were a bit overperforming, but mind you, with these things, it's always intentional, and yeah, I don't think that's a bad thing, because that means that I could go and progress through the map, fight all the different types of enemies, and not have to restart constantly, which, you know, with these types of events, it's not ideal. That being said, I did fail during this mission, because I wasn't really paying attention during the intro, which told me what to do, and I was more looking around at all the pretty stuff. This mission was focused around getting a sample, and I was too busy beating stuff to death, because, I mean, I'm a Grey Knight, so yeah. I still won because I think I eliminated pretty much everything that was on the map, so it looks like there are some alternatives, but who knows if that stays the same way when the game gets fully released. But I've been talking for well enough, I think, so I'm gonna let it play out for about a minute or two now, so you can see proper footage with, you know, the real sounds and all that type of stuff before we start getting into some more detail.
Taking position. Your orders? Taking position. At your service. What is your will? Yes, Commander. Foe wounded.
You've destroyed the seed.
I must
Are you not the
rearm.
Emperor's most elite?
Well done, my brothers. However, the Plague God's minions converge on your location. Hold your ground until the Dominus can teleport you from the surface.
So she told me that I wasn't doing it right, but hey, I got praise, so I'm taking it as praise. As you can see, it's kind of basic at the very moment because there wasn't too much to do in this mission. Well, there would have probably been more if I would have, done this correctly, but what you can see is that you can move around your troops, you have loads of different abilities focusing around your Grey Knights, so yeah, you're gonna be an army of Psychers, and this is what is expected from Grey Knights anyway. Early on, it's not a lot of different enemies, it's mostly cultists and a few different Plague Marines here and there, but it's to get you started. I'm not too sure what mission this is on the campaign, as we were just given a few missions to play through, but I'm assuming that this must be very early into the game itself. But it's interesting, as you can tell, the sound design, let's talk about that before anything. It sounds great, it sounds very atmospheric, it feels grimdark. That's the whole thing about a Warhammer game, it needs to feel grimdark, and that's paired up quite nicely with the scenery. I mean, everything looks like Imperial Gothic stuff, and it's just absolutely wonderful. I know this might not be too much of a thing for most people, but scenery, especially for Warhammer, is very important, and I find it to be very important too. It's not all jokes and stuff, but rather this dark and depressive feeling, which is super cool. It's just very cool, I'm just gonna say that. You would have seen earlier on that there was a Plague Marine hiding behind some cover, and I managed to break through the cover as I was shooting at him, which is great. There is so much destructible terrain. You can break through walls, you can break through doors. You'll start to see a lot more destructible environments when we start going into the second mission, but it's a great thing because that means that you can plan and do some other tactics. Maybe I want to burst down through this door, maybe I want to move around and just focus fire heavily. It depends on what you have available to you in your arsenal too. There's been a few enemies introduced through their own mini cinematic, which is obviously great as it just gives you a good look at them. As most of this gameplay, you're going to be quite top down, as you can see, for the majority of it, so getting a good look at stuff is quite nice. You're probably noticing me being quite slow, moving stuff around. What you're seeing is literally just me with my first few minutes of gameplay. It's just literally just that. In terms on how easy it is to learn the game, there was an internal tutorial, and I'm assuming that that's also going to be available at launch, which was quite simple, streamlined. I think that you learn more as you go rather than a tutorial, and I definitely got my grasp with how the game works more or less with this mission. Getting used to how everything kind of works in the battlefield is probably the best way to go, and I'd say that it's relatively quickly, which is a very good thing, because if the game is teaching you as you progress, that's obviously going to make it a bit of a better experience for you. I will say I would have loved if I could have picked my loadout and just made my mistakes as I've gone, but then again, these press releases are usually quite time-gated, but it was very satisfying, basically beating anything that worships Nurgle to death. So, yeah. So I'd say within 10 minutes or so, I was already quite enthralled with everything. Obviously, I am keeping an open mind with these types of things because you never know for the future, and obviously everything's still in development. But it looks like a generally good Warhammer game, which is rare to say at the very least. I think my total time played was around 2 hours, which was quite good. It allowed me to experience different missions, different playstyles, and generally just explore for a bit. I wanted to just see the grimdark. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let it play out again so you can just experience the game with just proper gameplay. You can hear the sound and all that. This mission's almost done too. It's important to note that yes, usually these things are overtuned just for the press, and it does make sense. So I'll let it go into the intro of the next mission. There's a lot to talk about and there's a lot of footage to cover. So yeah, just a little break for me and I'll be back talking in about a minute or two.
What's next, brothers?
Beginning teleportation.
So the first mission was about 12 minutes or so. This next one is about 35 minutes more or less. Again, I'm pretty sure that the first mission would have lasted a bit longer had I gone through the actual objectives, but hey, I brute force stuff. And this next mission, which tasks us to seek and destroy the bloom spawn, well, that's more my alley, a little bit more brute force. The mission area is definitely a bit larger, there's a lot more terrain to cover, there's even loads of different areas where you can get elevated shooting positions. It's very important from what I've seen that you need to have your Grey Knights working as a team, which yes, might be a standard thing that you might think, but in certain other games that have a similar style, you can have them splitting up and covering more ground, where I do feel it's possible. They are very strong, but they're definitely much stronger together as a hammer and anvil. Well, it's mostly just hammer because they go straight in and they can do a lot of damage, especially if you focus fire down your enemies, which I would say, at least from my experience, was quite important considering that there are a lot of Nurglish forces around and they can quickly start to overwhelm you if they start dogpiling you. There were definitely some points where my marines did get knocked down a few times and I did need to heal them up, which was really nice to have the apothecary around. But yeah, there were a lot of swarming points for me, possibly because I just wasn't thinking too well when I was playing, but yeah, it was quite interesting. It was nice to feel that there was a proper threat. While yes, this is an in-development build from quite a while ago, I would say that the enemy AI is quite smart and does use the terrain, the cover, and everything as you expect it to, which is something that obviously does matter with these types of games. I did forget about Plague Bearers being a possible enemy, but interestingly enough, they've just shown up. As you can see, I had some time to move and get into position, and now they're all coming for me. This is when they'll start trying to swarm. I need to be prepared. I need to be able to do damage. In most cases, I'm going straight in and just smashing them as much as possible. I do have quite a strong melee character that does help quite a bit, but it is very obvious that I do start to suffer a little bit as I went full ham, and they just keep coming. They keep coming, and it's a good thing. It shows that there is a sense of urgency, that you can't just smash your head onto the keyboard and expect everything to go well, which is like 99% on how I live my life. Again, I'm going to let it play out for about a minute or two so you guys can just enjoy the scenery, the sounds and all that. I feel like that's really important with these types of games, so I want to have as uninterrupted playthroughs as possible.
I am with you. Avenge them, brothers! Make them pay! Unleash me! It's me, my brothers! Destroy! I must rearm.
So Plague Bearers are extremely durable as expected, and I just wanted to get out there as fast as possible, so I probably wasn't going for the best abilities. It was mostly because there was a mine there and I didn't want to take a lot of damage. Even then, you can see that you can take damage if you try to retreat and break from combat and all that, because they do lock you down, which I think is quite good. It's nice being able to move around, shoot at different enemies. The style of gameplay is pretty good. It feels very fluid. I'm not exactly sure what state the game was, I mean in terms of builds and all that, but everything felt very, very fluid. I only had, I think, one crash, and that's kind of expected. It could have been down to the fact that I was playing remotely. I wasn't actually in their studio. I was in the comfort of my own home. But like I said, the game felt really, really good, which is something that is always quite surprising with me with Warhammer games, because you never really know. But yeah, I was really hyped up, and as the game progressed more and more, I got more and more excited. This is something that I could definitely throw a lot of hours into. Hopefully the campaign is fairly large. I don't think we were given any information with exactly how large the campaign is, but the missions played themselves were quite varied, and yeah, I was quite happy with what I was seeing, especially with 40k games. They're generally not too good, but there was definitely a lot of immersion here, which I was quite happy about, because obviously, like I said before, you want the grim dark feel. I wonder how this campaign, or the game in general, is going to introduce the setting to non-Warhammer fans. I unfortunately never got to ask about that, but I imagine that it's going to have some sort of little basic information to tell you exactly what a Grey Knight is, and what the Bloom is, what the Death Guard are, just all the basics. As you can see, when we start going into further corrupted territories, the color palette starts changing, which I think is really, really nice, and it starts looking a lot more Nurglish, more diseased. I love it. I honestly really do. You can go from the very nice looking, kind of dark, light bluish, you know, to really dark and gritty grays. Everything starts looking more rusted. It's absolutely great. I love this. At this point, we also did get introduced to a new enemy in game, so there's already a lot of different enemy types, which I think is fantastic. And these are the Blight Haulers. These are small demon engines. They've got a decent amount of firepower. They're something that you kind of want to focus, because they can hurt. They can really hurt. In-game animations are also really, really nice. It doesn't really force you to watch every single attack so you can kind of move around. I'm not sure if this is intended or not, but I hope this stays the same as a lot of other games that do the same style of format of gameplay, just watch you to see the same animations over and over again, whereas I like to just start moving my stuff around. I'm pretty active when it comes to these types of games. I want to just keep on moving, keep on destroying everything, overseeing, well, pretty much the whole map as much as possible, just to make sure that I'm not missing anything. I do miss a few things in this playthrough, but yeah, that's just me. I'm not sure about all the maps in game, but this one in particular feels very, very large. There's a lot to travel through, there's a lot to explore, there's a lot of different cover points. I was quite impressed, because generally these types of games don't have very, very large maps. So this was great to see, giving you a lot of different options. Yes, you do have to go to specific areas, but if you want to just divide and conquer, or you want to get to certain vantage points, it looks like you're able to here without too much of an issue. Now, I'm going to let it play out a little bit more, give you some more time to just like experience the game, and we'll be back in just a few more minutes.
You come on. Standing ready. Bring death. I sense them near. Another falls to the Knights of Titan. Yes, Commander. Your command.
So here we're pretty close to the bloom spawn, and what we can see is obviously they're trying to throw as much at me as possible. It's a lot of cultists. I'm not sure what difficulty this must have been in. Again, press event, maybe normal, maybe easy. But there's a lot of enemies, and I start to feel it, especially as they start providing some fire. We're going to start dealing with enemies coming from all sides, and yeah, it's going to be quite hectic. Now, it's really interesting, as you're going to see in just a few minutes, well, a few seconds, the bloom spawn itself is a feculent Naldor, which was really nice, because it's one of my favorite miniatures. It's just great terrain piece in general, and yeah, it's cool. So it was really nice to see that, especially in 40k. I don't think 40k fans do use it, I'm not too sure. It's been a while since I've played, because I've been relatively busy painting up armies for other stuff. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let the rest of the mission play out. You can just see all the traps being used and just general how I kind of struggled a little bit here. I must admit I did struggle quite a bit. And then we'll come back at the final mission, because there's a bit to discuss over there too.
Here. At your service. Foe down. You cannot harm me. Unleash me. Unleash me. What is your will? Yes, Commander. What is your will? My blade is yours. With haste. I am here to serve. Gratitude. What is your will? Standing ready. Unleash me. Yes, Commander. My blade. I am here to serve. My wrath is restored. Your orders. Unleash me. Unleash me. On the hunt. Here! I am with you. Another foul seed clean.
Excellent work, Commander. Withdraw your forces. Our initiates can tend to the leftover filth.
And finally, we're at a rather interesting boss fight. This is fighting against a Great Unclean One, and he's able to summon in loads of Nurglings. It's really interesting because the mechanics are that there are different points, and, well, he also does it too. Nurglings will spawn periodically, and if you're trying to fire at the Great Unclean One, the Nurglings will jump in and take the damage. It's really interesting. I was quite surprised. Now, this was an easy fight, more or less. It took around, I'd want to say, 7, 8 minutes, 9 minutes, but again, overtuned. It was really interesting. I did suffer. This I had to play a second time, as the first time I did have my crash, which was a desync because of long distance playing. But this was pretty interesting. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was definitely something that I did have to think about and how I was going to do some damage and how I was going to focus fire. It was pretty cool. Plus, you know, it's a Great Unclean One. It's like one of the coolest models ever. So I'm going to let it play out. This is pretty much the last of the talking I'm going to do. I'm going to let you see how he sounds and all that, because it's pretty cool. And then I'm going to leave you something for the very end. You might want to see that. Now, as you can imagine, I have cut this down as much as possible without cutting out gameplay. The idea is to just avoid spoilers like the plague, because nobody wants story to be ruined for them. So yeah, let's just watch the rest.
A shame. Yes, Commander. I strike true.
Commander, these Nurglings may seem a minor pest, but they will fast prove overwhelming.
Notification. The source of these abominations have been codified as spawners. They must be purged.
Come, my nephews. Don't be shy. I have some new playmates for you. Your orders. I am here to serve. What is your will? Death to the enemy. Foe wounded. Feel the bite of my sword. Fall. Firing on target. Such efforts are futile. Repent this foolishness and accept my benevolence. Yes, sir.
Impressive tactic. We must bathe them all in purifying flame.
Your command? Your command. Yes, Commander. Standing ready. I am with you. I must refocus, Commander. Such dreary and ungrateful guests. We should all be celebrating the bloom's impending morbus. The foe bleeds.
The Reaper is purged, our duty fulfilled.
Concern. Nurgling infestation lingers. Unorthodox deployment of exterminatus recommended for absolute certainty.
It is done, Dominus. Be at peace. Those foul spawn will not survive long without their broodmaster.
Yes, truly. We must recover the Prime Seed and pursue the others.
Denial. Risk of infestation remains.
If I must, I will venture below personally and purge the immediate area before we return anything to the ship.